Unisa Department of Jurisprudence lecturer Mametlwe Sebei joins us here on Full View to share his thoughts on why we must debate the axing of the former Tshwane Mayor, Dr. Murunwa Makwarela. You'll recall that Makwarela provided forged documents stating that he was a rehabilitated insolvent and thus was found to be ineligible to stand for public office. Sebei wants us to reanimate the discussion, and it's around the piece around a constitutional legitimacy and whether this can be used to remove a public official. Good evening and welcome to you. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us on Full View. Let's begin with how the saga began, the questions around his solvency and how that ties into his eligibility to hold office. Should insolvency, and this is the question you're raising, form a legitimate basis for disqualifying someone from being an elected public official?
Thank you and good evening to our listeners. Yes, obviously he was disqualified in terms of section 47.1C of the Constitution, which amongst others says that, people who are declared insolvent and unrehabilitated cannot occupy, positions within the legislature. And I think in terms of Municipal Structures Act, that also applied to public representatives at local governance, including councils. So I'm saying that the issue here is not really the personal integrity of Makwarela, and I think you look at his forging of document, but also I also don't hold brief for his politics. The issue is about the principle to say, can we still say solvency? The financial solvency of people is a measure of their financial prudence, is a measure of their personal integrity. What is, solvency meaning in a world where credit is a very lifeblood of the economic system today, and many people are, active, but also the forces that determine whether they default on their credit as well as they become declared insolvent are outside of their personal control.
So let's stay with this bigger question that you are raising and tying all of this to the disenfranchisement of the poor and working class majority, whom you argue would likely all not make the grade to stand up for public office if the strict legal definition on solvency is applied. Just explain this point to us in a bit more detail, please.
So you have a situation in this country where about 20 million people over 20 million people are, credit active, right? And this is a country where only about 15 million or so people are employed. And what does that mean? It means lots of other people who are basically credit active are actually unemployed. Many of them are just people on grants who, are active through a use of credit card, but also, credit facilities in the clothing stores. They take cell phones and other things, on credit that, it's just really about day-to-day survival. That's the first thing. Secondly, this means that for a great majority of people that are unemployed without any form of income, basically there's not even a discussion about their solvency. But also, if you look at many of the working class people, right? We are living in a country where about 75% of the workers are earning about 5,800 and below. Those that are also employed, that are earning between 10,000 and 20,000, their situation is no better. In actual fact, the reports in terms of the financial distress in this country are painting a very dark picture. And these are people from which the leadership of the working class is being drawn from in the trade union movement, and so on and so on. And most of these people are in financial distress.
So, it's a really interesting, point that you're raising and debate you want us to have. But, we'd say as the public, we want someone who has access to the public purse, who's privy to the public purse, to be astute in the management of their own finances. What does the Constitution say about that?
Look, today, who doesn't depend on credit for their home? For their home financing, right? All of us, probably myself and you as well, are having a mortgage over our houses. We don't buy it by cash. We depend on loans for vehicle financing. We have some form of credit card facility, whether is a credit card, whether is an account with a clothing and so on. And the forces that determine whether you are pushed over cliff, over the cliff to become insolvent are not dependent on your prodigality, and reflection of your financial prudence, as you put it, right? The fact of the matter is, for instance, when we took loans, many of us, 2021, the latest, right? Since that time, interest rates have increased by 375 basis points. That is over 100% increase. You look at the report that have been were at Sunday Times newspaper as of yesterday. I think there's been miscalculation, but it shows that a bond of a 2 million house actually has increased, or a cost of servicing it monthly has increased by over 4,000. But you just look at the number of people that are in financial distress, right? All of those people, you can say they are not prudent financially, and that's the reason also the law in terms of how it treats credit and solvency, it has changed. There was a time where there was creditors' jails, people were being, publicly flogged for not paying on their debts and so on. The law has changed because under capitalism, under a market economy, credit has been generalized and is just a part of the day-to-day lives. Yeah. And the declaration of legal insolvency has a particular economic function, which is to clear the old unrepayable debt and to free people from those particular kind of obligations in order to create conditions for rebalancing of the economy on the basis of credit and new credit facilities and debt that people can then use to buy more houses, to buy more cars, without which many industries will collapse basically.
Again, a really interesting thread of the conversation. You talked about the evolution in laws or the punishment for people who find themselves to be in debt and unable to pay. And that's why you are on a mission for the laws around this to be changed. What does that look like?
No, all I'm saying is that, for me, I'm very surprised that actually, as a workers' movement, we're not raising this debate in this context, because you look at the people, there's a debate now, in the left, in the COSATU, in SABC, about the need for independent political representation of the working class. When you look at this, for many community civics, right, which rest on the unemployed, lots of this law would actually exclude a great majority of community activists who are unemployed and who have defaulted on their credit in a number of ways. But also even the leadership of the trade union movement, where is it drawn from? It's drawn from skilled workers in the main, is drawn from people in liberal professions, and these are people who 75% of them are, in credit, are not only credit active, but in fact, a crushing majority of them have reported a distress. And that distress is brought about, as I've said, not the issue of their financial prudence, is a reflection of the economic situation and the fact that the interest rates are being hiked to levels that has increased the cost of servicing the debt in a way that is simply not sustainable for many people, not due to fault of their own, but due to economic forces that are outside of their control.
Well, that's all we have time for tonight. But again, part of a bigger debate, which you were hoping to trigger in part by this op-ed that you've written. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Unisa Department of Jurisprudence lecturer, Mametlwe Sebei.